सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावतीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। So he presumes we are all clear about the matrix, about the Panchakosha Viveka, and then about the Dvaita Viveka. Dvaita Viveka doesn't end with just knowing the difference between Ishvara and creation, where there is no difference between the two, all pervading. That is what Upanishad is all about. In Saddarshanam, Ramana Maharishi says there is no creation, there is no creation apart from me, the pure consciousness. And here also it is the same. Let us not get confused ever that the mind, speech, and prana is something a unique, patented trademark product of the Jiva. No, everything is that Brahman only. But Jiva picks up that creation, that part of the creation by Brahman, and he uses it to his selfish motive to look at the creation from his lens of ego. And like we said, we read, and then thereafter, once he wore this glass and started viewing this creation with his own ego, his own impressions, vasanas, and thereafter the misery started. And the misery into the Chakravyuha, vicious circle of the birth and death. That is the problem. 50% of the game won. Having realized this, to get rid of the wrong usage of the mind and the speech and the senses. And through sadhana, that's what we are doing all about. That's what is sadhana chatushtaya and all sessions are about. Giving up the wrong usage of the lens, wearing a neutral glass, and seeing the creation as Ishvara sees. Seeing the creation as Satya Sai, Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba would see the gathering in the Kulwant Hall. And ending this discrepancy in the duality and merging with the Ishvara. Game one. Okay. Now we move to, they all look simple, but because we think that once we have understood as a knowledge, it is sufficient. No. That is the starting point. Mananam part. Afterwards, you have to, the real battle, the real sadhana, the real struggle, the real challenge is about having understood that, taking up that relentless effort, even if the life has to go at any cost, not leaving the sadhana, and then what we have understood at Mananam, converting that into our real subjective experience. That is the whole thing sadhana about. We live with a understanding. Yes, I have understood. A disciple once goes to Chinmaya, and these are all not part of the Vairagya session. Just taking a couple of minutes. The disciple goes and tells to Chinmaya that I have known, like Kenopanishad, I know Brahman. Then the Acharya says, if you think you know, I fear you may not know. Go back again and contemplate. So Chinmaya says, Chinmaya is plays with the English vocabulary. He says, the Acharya says, shut up and get out. What does mean? Shut up your egoistic knowledge which says that you know everything, and get out of your vasanas, get out of your ego, and then get inward. That is what all about sadhana. Mere understanding is of no use. It's better not to understand anything and be happy. Okay. Vairagya. Vairagya is dispassion for the pleasures of the world and heaven. Is jahan ka or us jahan ka. In practical life, what is Vairagya? Realizing the temporary nature of objects or relations, all worldly possessions, and developing dispassion. Dispassion here for a grahastha, it is non-attachment. We will come to that. For a sannyasi who might be in the Shivananda ashram, a celibate sannyasi who has given up everything and then learning under the feet of the acharya in the Gurukula ashram, it is total dispassion to the core. Total dispassion to the core. For a grahastha, it is the dispassion changes its nature to non-attachment, not detachment, non-attachment. We will come to it later. If the mind is constantly thinking of something, say he just had a filter coffee, thinking of a filter coffee, or and if there is any pain when you are not able to get that filtered coffee, when you visit Turkey or when you visit some other place, no chance of getting filtered coffee. Then you have this ashakti, attachment. For that pain causes attachment. That pain causing that attachment, that leads to bondage. The practice of Vairagya demands that you should renounce, you should develop total non-attachment towards that attachment bondage, and not running away from coffee, but not having that pain if you are not able to have that. That is non-attachment in the Grahastha Dharma. It is the absence of desire for the enjoyment of pleasures of this perceptible world or perceivable world, or even of some future state of experience hereafter. Absence of desire for the enjoyment, that is Vairagya. Not aversion, not hatred, not a total this thing, negative dispassion. Absence of desire for the enjoyment of pleasures, that is Vairagya. You enjoy, no problem. Some of the perceptions of such a person who has developed this quality, who doesn't have a passion for pleasures, he might still be in the world, he might still be enjoying the world at a worldly level as a grahastha within the within the square of the swadharma, within the permissible range of the atma dharma, swadharma, within that, not outside that. Some of the perceptions of such a person who doesn't have the passion will be the awareness that all the outside pleasures are momentary. All self-centered activities result in making the mind more grosser, with detachment or non-attachment, there is a possibility of love in relationships rather than dependence on relations. Very, very, very important for all grahasthas. If I have, he's going to explain it in a couple of minutes. If you have not got this till now, whatever age you are 20, 35 or 45 or 65 or 50, catch this today and just don't get into nididhyasana, don't get into slow and steady wins the race. Just just start now. After the session, just start. What he's saying, with detachment, there is a possibility of love in relationships rather than dependence on relations. Brothers and sisters and elders, whatever a human being, you have to see whether it is applicable to you or not applicable to you. Whatever we human beings think that we love certain beings, our wife, our husband, our children, our parents, our brothers, our sisters, so on and so forth. Whatever the feeling which we think as love may not be love. Why? Because if we understand what Swami says, truly Swami means by love, then if your love is dependent on the other person, if it is a give and take relationship, if you think you are loving a person, but heart of heart you are hoping or you are depending some gratification, sense gratification, some gratification of your feelings from that person in return, it is not love. That dependence on the other person for fulfilling at the subtlest level your ego, at the grossest level any gratification for that matter, maybe a recognition, physical, mental, emotional, whatever. It might lead to that ashakti, attachment, bondage. 99% of the relationships are like that. We think we really love. Just screen it through this security, like the airport security. Screen your love for any person in the world after this session gets over through the security scan of dependence. If mentally, emotionally, physically, if you are dependent on that person and you think your love doesn't qualify to fulfill the love defined by avatar. Whereas if your love is just love with no dependence on the other person, he may curse you, he may slap you, or he may recognize you, or he may love you. That is his portfolio. Regardless of what is the response from the other person, and in the other person means all persons of the world, all love all has to be lived in its spirit, not just for lip sake. If we are able to love human beings unconditionally, regardless of their response to us, at that moment, that form of that person, that habit of that person, that nature of that person, that likes and dislikes of that person, the entire personality goes and only love remains. That is love. Otherwise, if you don't qualify for this any relationship, you call as vatsalya, you call as passion, you call as anurag, You call us anything, but no, don't call us love. Love, as he often says, love has never ever any appointment. So it can never ever have any disappointment. There is no appointment, there is no agenda, there is no dependence. A poet wrote, somebody is listening to this, he is going to smile, sitting far away. प्यार को प्यार ही रहने दो, इसे रिश्तों का इल्जाम ना दो. Gulzar wrote this. प्यार को प्यार ही रहने दो. Don't name it. Let it be just selfless, pure love. Practice today, from today onwards, till eternity. Detachment brings freedom and fearlessness. Discrimination of permanent and impermanent automatically results in changed perceptions regarding that which is impermanent. Origin of Vairagya. Vairagya, in true sense, has to be necessarily out of Viveka, or discrimination between Nitya and Anitya, eternal and non-eternal, Sat and Asat, Atman and Anatman, Tattva Atattva, essence and non-essence. Any other Vairagya, depending upon any situation, you develop a Vairagya because you are not able to attain certain things. I don't want that, I hate that, to hell with that. What if it is not there? I am the king, I have so. All these are, your mind will be eternally hankering for that object still. You may shout, you may yell. That is not Vairagya. Vairagya is born out of clear discrimination between real and unreal. That is Vairagya. Viveka only can give birth to or can evolve to real Vairagya. Be very sure about it. Any other thing, if we think it is dispassion, it is more passion. So essential prerequisite is, without Vairagya, there can be no spiritual progress. In Vedanta, it is vital, fundamental. That is why the rishis of the yore wrote in the path of Jnana Yoga, you have to attain these 4 qualifications. Then only you are entitled for entering the straight and that Acharya take me over. I am you. Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tan Nirodha. The mind is controlled by meditation of sadhana and Vairagya. They go together. They are 2 wings of the aspirant to soar high into the realm of immortal abode. Krishna has also said, Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grahyate. The mind is controlled by practice and dispassion and intense detachment. Tattva Bodha. Vairagya. What is dispassion? Icha. This world and heaven, the absence of desire for them, that is Vairagya. So our 4, this thing, Swarupa Hetu, Karya Avadhi, we will hold on to that till we reach the end. The form of Vairagya, the essential Swarupa or nature of Vairagya is the absence of desire for the enjoyment of the fruits of one's action. The Hetu, the cause, that is, we have to be clear. how the Swarupa is different from Hetu. We have to be clear. It should not be just listened, and it should not just in a loose manner. It should not get that way. I said razor sharp focus, focus, focus. Swarupa means one who is bestowed with the sampatti of Vairagya. What is the nature of that person? When you look at that person, how that person, absence of desire, he is acting, but absence of desire for the enjoyment of the fruits of that is the nature of Vairagya, or that is the manifestation of Vairagya in a person if you see that person. Now, what is the cause of Vairagya? Different. What is the Hetu? The fundamental cause that produces dispassion is dosha drishti, or seeing the defects in, seeing the, not defects, little defects looks negative. We will change the word. Seeing the limitations in all pleasures arising from the senses. May not be defective, but they are very limited. The difference is when an acharya who has left the world and set up and has either lives as an avadhuta, secluded from the world, or has set up an ashram like Shivanandaji Maharaj, and he has the celibate sannyasins, then he is going to seeing the defects only he will write, because there is no concession given to them. There is no concessions. Spiritual sadhana instruction Shivanandaji Maharaj has written 16 or 26, he's forgetting. We will all, grahasthas will faint on seeing that. Impossible. No confusion there. Why Shivanandaji Maharaj has written? He's not a man of practical wisdom. No, 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 no. He is giving that to the sannyasins who have left everything. There he is going to write that dosha drishti, seeing the defects in all pressures. When they talk about women, when they talk about sex, when they talk about, they go to any extent to condemn that. It will be like striking, hammering, hammering, hammering. When Paramahamsa Yogananda or Chinmayananda, who went to the West and who had to teach to the Westerners practically, they will write in a mellowed way. That is the difference. Okay, so for you grahasthas, he is changing. Dosha drishti means seeing the limitations in all pleasures arising from the senses. This in turn is possible, needless to say, only through Vivek, not through any other way. Karya, effect. The effect is, firstly, the person with dispassion stops planning to enjoy or enhance sensual pleasures. Much time and energy is saved simply by doing this. Pleasure stops becoming the main item on his or her agenda. That is the karya effect. Gradually, even ordinary acts like eating food, etc., etc., that person gets freed of excessive attachment, excessive clinging on to even normal routines. As dispassion grows, further evolves, its effect on the person can be quite dramatically different from that of another. In these three gradations, the first one is stops planning. That is the first level. The third person will be higher, higher. Even in the normal, mundane food items, these normal things also you can clearly make out the level of dispassion that person, that is advanced level. So you have to start and then you have to evolve to that person, that level. Avadhi, culmination. The end result is the world is looked upon as clearly unreal. Be very clear. This is the starting of the sadhana, sadhana chatushtaya. He has started. Brahma Satyam Jagat Nitya. You have to start your spiritual journey with, he has written umpteen number of times. If you will have to start your sadhana under the feet of a guru, Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru, with the clarity that the world is unreal, the world is false, the world is a might, the world is a mirage. Then only ultimately you will lead to the ultimate reality that everything is Brahman. There is no world separate from Brahman to call it as unreal. That is the ultimate. Sitting at the first stage, you cannot talk about that. Sitting at the last stage, you will not be able to talk that it is unreal at all. Because through the Nirvana Shatakam, when all the duality is transcended, even the Namuktir Bandha, even the bondage, duality between bondage, bondage, seeking liberation and being in bondage, that is also gone. Then where is the duality? That is the Dvaita Viveka part which he taught last week. Where is the person in him, the ego in him, to discriminate that the world is real or unreal? That duality is also gone. Clear? Does it mean that the avadhi is equal to total aversion to the objects of the world? No. There is no problem in enjoying. The avadhi is cessation of enjoyment. Note this, he has written specifically for you. Cessation of enjoyment in enjoying the objects of the world. The mind ceases to enjoy what you might otherwise be enjoying. The feeling of the enjoyment that is not of any enjoyment to the person. Like in Ashtavakra Gita, Chinmaya writes, the meditator has to go. Okay, the only purpose of the meditation is through meditation, with meditation, as meditator, progress and end the other side of the shore. And the only purpose of meditation is through meditation, with meditation, as meditator, end the meditation and exist as the final object of the meditation, Brahman pure consciousness. So need not stop enjoyment. Stop enjoying the enjoyment. That is Vairagya, Avadhi. There are two kinds of Vairagya. Karana Vairagya and Viveka Purvaka Vairagya. Karana Vairagya, as he has already covered, he is not going into detail. There has something happened in life due to which you have been disillusioned, or you have been cheated, or you have not got certain thing for which you worked all through your life, or you put a major thirst on obtaining something you did not get, or some situation in life, okay, which has deprived you of something. Due to that, you are developing a dispassion that I don't want so helped with you. This is Karana Vairagya. This need not be a true Vairagya, because the real test will, he's not saying that you may not have, that you will be really challenged when whatever you did not get in your life, that knocks your door and that says, any object for that matter, anything that says to you, come, take, it is all for you. It may be a career, anything, A to Z. When it again comes to you uninvited and it begs to be possessed by you, there your real Vairagya will be tested. Karana Vairagya, depending upon getting or non getting certain objects, mostly non getting. Viveka Purvaka Vairagya, dispassion on account of discrimination between the real and the unreal. Vairagya born out of Viveka or discrimination between Nitya, Anitya, Sat, Asat. Vairagya is the real wealth of an foreign. That is why sadhana chatushtaya sampatti attainment it is told. It's the biggest attainment, biggest abhushanam, biggest jewelry. Viveka Chodamani. Shankara wrote, na? Crown jewel. We write, na? We Sri Ramacharana Bhupala Chudamani. You remember? Crown jewel of Viveka. Viveka Chudamani. The biggest attainment, sampatti. He who has perfect mental detachment in the world is a hero, or he or she is hero. Better than a sadhu living in a Himalayan cave, because the sadhu has to face, because he, even if he thinks he cannot have a morning filter coffee, even if he wants, he cannot have any normal, he has to live on the fruits and the leaves, and he has to be sleeping on that, this thing, mountain, on that stone, the cave. He has to live even in the snow time in the Himalayas. There is no chance, there is no chance of getting any of the normal things. There, there his vairagya is put to test. He cannot have. An ideal person is that everything is at your feet. Everything is available to you. You still have dispassion, non-attachment. That is real vairagya. Not running away. It doesn't put down those monks in the Himalayan caves. Always you should have clarity. One sentence told, or Swami writes something in Satya Sai Vahini, it is to that context, it has to be taken and meditated, contemplated, taken. We cannot take one sentence and put that sentence in some other context and say that Swami, Satya Sai Bhagwan Avatar has told. That is not good. What context? It is said that it is better a grahastha as a viveka, having vairagya, even when he can have anything at his feet, even not enjoying the enjoyment of the objective world, is the vairagya of a grahastha, we told. But that put him to that extent, relatively, it puts him on a higher pedestal than a sadhu living in the Himalayas, because he cannot have anything, he cannot afford to enjoy. But it doesn't put down a sadhu in the Himalayas who doesn't have an hankering for enjoying anything. There are sadhus, to our amazement, who in tapas under the snow, how they are breathing, how it is impossible to even understand. So don't take this and don't put down those sadhus. You understand in the correct perspective always. That is why too much clarity is required when you come to Vedanta sessions. It is not a generic thing. It is not do good, see good at all anymore. Degrees in Vairagya: Mridu, Madhyama, Tivra, mild, moderate, and intense. Only intense Vairagya is a part of the course in the Sadhana Chatushtaya, not the mild and the Madhyama. If it is of a dull type like Mashana Vairagya or Prasava Vairagya, okay, the labor pain when the lady gets to, never ever a lady, never ever a delivery, not at all. 10th month she goes to the hospital for the next delivery. When we go and attend that this thing funeral, we say immediately messages WhatsApp will flow. What is there in life? That person was so good, so friendly to me. He was here. He is not there anymore. What is there in life? Why we are having so much attachment? Why we are running? Nothing is there. 2 days only. People attending the 13 days of this thing, rituals, when a person dies, towards the fourth day, fifth day, their intensity of the feeling for that person goes, and their focus is on the type of food which is they are going to get towards the 11th, 12th, 13th day. Not to undermine, but that is the reality in life. So mild or madhyama vairagya will not do. Tivra vairagya, tivra, born out of vivek. Stages in vairagya. Yatamana vairagya, there is an attempt not to allow the mind to run into sensual pleasures. Vyatireka, we dealt with Vyatireka, you remember? Vyatireka, what we done? Both the things are aware, non-aware, present, non-present, both are existing. So Vyatireka. Anvaya, we told only one exists, the other one doesn't. Through the king analogy. Vyatireka, in this, you are having attraction towards the objects, and also on the other side, you are endeavoring to cut off the attachment. Both the things are there, like the two tracks of a railway. You are also having attachment, and you are also trying to come out of attachment. Vyatireka. Okay. Then Ekendriya, the sense stands still and subdued, but the mind has neither raga or dvesha for the objects. Then the last one, the highest stage is Vashirara Vairagya. The objects no longer tempt you. They cause no attraction. The senses are perfectly quiet and stilled. Manasa Sarovar, like that, it is stilled. Nirmala, Nischala, Niranjana, pure. Okay. No object of any world, no relation in any world, not even the kingdom, nothing in the world has got any iota of potency in them to cause a vibration in you, cause a distraction, cause a ripple in you. Not possible. So be it. That's it. Without such a vairagya, no spiritual progress is possible. There are mainly three main types of desire. Thakur Ramakrishna has also dealt with this. Kanchan, Kamini, Kirti. Kamini, physical level, for a woman or a man, whatever. Kanchana, desire for wealth is more subtle and rules a wider spectrum, wider area of our life than the Kamini, which is at a grosser level. Kirti is still subtler than wealth. White kurta, white pajama, simple life, simple thing, simple, but always desiring for name and fame. Kirti, very subtle, which gives the ego a huge boost. I am a true Sai Sevak, Sai Ram. Everything Swami does. What am I? Easy observing me, easy recognizing my efforts, easy telling something. This is Kirti. Very subtle. Only you will know and Swami will know. Nobody else. No, none, not even your spouse, children, or husband, children will know. Only you will know, Swami. Kirti. all have to go. Kanchan, Kamini, Kirti, everything has to go in the Vairagya. They have to be offered in the Yajna, Ahuti of Vairagya, and finished, become ashes. Still, you be in the world. What is there? What is problem? If you are a Grahastha, lead the Grahastha life with your spouses, no problem. But what is the level of desperation? What is the level of hankering for Kanchan, Kamini, Kirti? That is the real test. In the Viveka Adi Shankara has not given this example, but in Viveka Chudamani, while explaining about the Sthita Prajna or a Jivan Mukta, Swami Chinmayananda writes that the Jivan Mukta, like a child is sleeping, you offer a blanket to the child, it will feel cozy, comfortable, and like that. If anything is offered to a Jivan Mukta, he may take. Okay, like with childlike innocence, with no hankering, with no desire. And for ever and eternity, nothing is offered to a Jivan Mukta, still he is in the same joy. So, taking the blanket, somebody is putting the blanket on you in severe cold Delhi climate, and you are feeling no problem. A blanket is not offered to you forever, no problem. We dealt with the story of Buddha, but in the context of Viveka, now in the context of Vairagya, we will go further in that. He sees all those things we have, okay? An old person, a sick person, and dead person. The inner voice, Vairagya. That means all this is unreal because the human being has to go through the 5 stages from the birth to death, getting without repeating again. Now it should be clear in your mind with the wave ocean sessions. So I have seen all this. I have seen an old person. Okay. I have seen the disease, I have seen the decay, and I have seen the death. This is unreal. So there is something real. Okay. Discriminating between Nitya and Anitya. Anitya I have known. Now I will set forth for knowing what is Nitya, what is eternal. Supreme Vairagya. Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. Vairagya dawned upon him, leaves his wife, leaves his child, leaves his kingdom. He realizes the transitoriness of the life, and then he leaves it, and he returned into forest and became an ascetic. For full 7 years, he lived in the woods, trying to find out some means to put end to pain, sin, and sorrow in the world, to seek something higher and nobler. We learn from Siddhartha's reason for renunciation that Siddhartha's reason for renunciation was his profound conviction that all the disease, decay, death he saw, all the worldly pleasures or happiness were fleeting. And his intense longing to attain peace and tranquility, which nothing could shake or nothing could end. Of course, first you have to help yourself in sadhana. If you are half cooked, half baked, know little 2-3 mantras, knows 2-3 small things, don't go and educate others. What will happen? You may be able to develop on those few lessons, And it is quite possible you may be able to impress the other person also, because he may not be even knowing that. So few things you may utter, some Sanskrit jargons and something this Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya and some examples you may take. He may be impressed, but still you have not reached that state, you have not reached that level. You cannot, your speech cannot transform that person. That is the test actually. Whether you have reached the ripened level or you are in a very half or quarter level, in a preliminary level. Whether your words, whether your teachings, whether the satsang can transform even one person, top to bottom, right, left, center, topsy turvy, in and inside out. If whatever incessantly flows from you, it is able to transform one or a few, then that is the test. So Siddhartha definitely did for himself, he attained for himself, and he got that jnana sitting under that Bodhi tree. Okay, we all know. Then he goes out to serve the humanity. He spreads that knowledge. So having got that done, that jnana seated under the body, he became to be known as Buddha or the enlightened. So the lesson, my dear brothers and sisters, is that the life has to teach us. The life has to teach us whatever we have got and whatever we have not got till now. Not got is the major portion. Got little things in most 99% cases. If someone gets up and say, out of all the 15, 20 of you, sir, I have only got everything. There is nothing that I have not got. Salutations to that person. Life doesn't give you everything. It gives you few things of joy, and it gives you a lot of pain, because you have been approaching the life, you have been approaching the relations, you have been approaching the world of objects with your expectations, with your raga dvesha, with your hoping to get some gratification out of those things. Ultimately it will end up in pain only. All these things need not develop a hatred towards the world, and not to see and to shun within a room and to get mentally affected. No, no, no. All these things should teach us that these things, too much of dependence on these things is not good, because they are not eternal. I am, with my body, mind, intellect, I am temporary. All the things which the world can give me, they are also temporary. Temporary object depending upon scores of other temporary objects, not good. Life must teach us, like it taught to Buddha, leave the attachment, don't leave the objects. You cannot leave your wife or husband and go to the forest. Leave the too much of attachment with hope, with expectations towards all objects, and devote your life from changing, from from changing your identity to this temporary BMI to the eternal Atman. Right? Further developing on Siddhartha's discovery about the pain in the world, about the transitory nature of the world, Patanjali Maharishi writes, Sarvam Dukkham Vivekina. Everything is only pain for the wise. Even Jnanavahini, second, third page, Swami has written Rasaswadhana. Swami has even blissful experience in sadhana is a hindrance. Rasaswada. So should not get stuck up there. Little bliss you are getting, that is not moksha. Go out, walk into the streets, get shouting from your boss, and have a fight with your husband, wife. If you are in bliss, then it is moksha. Okay. Don't spiritual experiences, brothers and sisters, small experiences, you should not bother about them. You should not speak about them. You should not go gaga about them. You should not write about them. It's your ego which is too much thinking about them. Small experiences will come in meditation, in spiritual visiting sadhana, but they come and they go. Don't think about them at all. Always have the loftiest goal, self-realization. Okay, this is good. Say thanks to Swami, gratitude to Swami. You gave me this experience. I saw this light today. I saw this today. Ramana will ask you, who is telling this, your ego or your real Swarupa, realized yogi? Who is telling this? Spiritual experiences, small, intermediate, lower level, intermediate, even at the penultimate level, experiences we should not talk, or think about too much. Any experience, one golden rule, anything which you are able to experience outside you is not real, is not Brahman. They are very good. Say thanks to your Ishtadevata. You can shed tears before your Ishtadevata. Got me so excited. But anything you experience outside, one golden rule, you are experiencing, it is not eternal. When that experience comes and merges in you and you transcend all the experiences and exist as the lighthouse, existing as the self-illumined Atman, illumining the world even while you walk through the world and transcending all the experiences, that is realization. How do people see or judge the vairagya of sadhu? It is impossible. Chinmaya writes, after several years from Uttarkashi, he goes, visits once his home in Kerala. His mother gives oil to him for an oil bath. Comfortably, he is seated there, taking this thing heat of the sun, sitting comfortably, eating dosa, and the whole village comes and watches with him. What is this sadhu? He doesn't have a vairagya. He's eating dosa. He's having oil bath. He is having a sun this thing bath. And what is this? All comforts he's having. Chinmaya, right? This is the world. The world will see in you how it enjoys dosa, how it enjoys the oil bath given by mother, how it enjoys all these luxuries. When it sees you taking that, it will think from its limited angle that you are also enjoying all those things the way it is enjoying. And sadhu can never be understood. He may appear to be normal. He may be eating what you are eating. He may be sleeping. He may be walking. He may be dressing. Not possible. So Shivananda's very hammering sense that what is required is not the physical nudity, what is required is mental nudity. The sadhus in the Rishikesh who are nude, almost living, wearing only a kaupyana, the lion's cloth, they may not be true renunciants. Physical nudity is not true renunciation. Mentally, you should be naked. Mentally, you should be naked means mentally you should not have anything at all. That is true vairagya. How to develop vairagya? Aspirants generally complain, we Acharya, Guruji, we are meditating for 10 years continuously. We do not know the reason. We have not got any substantial spiritual progress. This is 99.99999 infinite 9. It is due to lack of intense vairagya born out of viveka that you are not able to get that spiritual experience even in spite of your slogging, in spite of yourself putting yourself into severe austerity, severe meditation, and this thing, upavas, and all those things. Vairagya is not there. Supreme non-attachment is that state wherein even the attachment to the qualities sattva, rajas, tamas drops. That is what he said. That a real yogi is the one who transcends all. Even being at most sattvic is an experience. You should transcend and become a pure sattva, not sattvic. Don't stop anywhere. Awake, arise, stop not till the goal is reached. Kathopanishad. Vivekananda picked up and he used this throughout his teachings. In ordinary vairagya, there is a trace of vasanas and desires. But in that supreme vairagya, vasanas, sanskaras, chitta, avidya, sattvic, pious, good, better, best, everything goes. How that vairagya will arise in your mind? Buddha example. The transitory and perishable nature of things creates a sort of dispassion, non-attachment. For a celibate, disgust, hatred, disgust. For a grahastha, a dispassion, internal dispassion in your mind. And in proportion to the depth and subtlety of nature, this reaction from the world works more or less powerfully in the mind of every individual. An irresistible feeling arises in our mind that the finite can never satisfy the infinite within us. That the changing and the perishable cannot satisfy the changeless and the deathless nature which is we. Like the rivers which ceaselessly they flow through the mountains to reach to the ocean. We, the jivas, the rivers, being born, living and dying and reborn for an infinite number of births, even while we are flowing, we may be full of desires, we may be full of avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, everything, full of vasanas, everything. But like the river having started, it doesn't stop till the time it reaches the sagar, it reaches the ocean. Like that, the secret, he is looking into your eyes and telling the secret is that we are birthless, deathless Atman. So no matter how stupid we are, no matter how desire filled we are, we never stop. The river doesn't stop flowing because in all our pursuits for all worldly kanchan, kamini, kirti, etc., in all stupid most actions also, we never stop anywhere because the true nature of a human being is Atman, changeless, deathless Atman. So, like the river never stops. We may be having karmas, we may be getting lot of red arrows, and we may be suffering, but we never जीवन कहीं भी ठहरता नहीं, he said in the last week na. So it never stops. You undergo several transmigrations, but you never stop, you continue to flow. Why? The secret is that you are infinite, you are trying to quench the thirst of this infinity in yourself through pursuing Kanchan Kamini Kirti, all the finite things in the world. Lo and behold, they are never able to satisfy the thirst of your infinite Atman. You continue your you continue your journey, you continue your journey, and you continue to search. And ultimately, in some birth or the other, when you are in your Sanchi, only limited red arrows are there, lot of white arrows are there, and then it beautifully, wonderfully, mystically aligns with the Ramana's declaration that you will definitely evolve in every birth. How beautiful. No matter how stupid you will evolve in every birth because your nature is infinite. How many births you try to satisfy this infinite self with this finite objects, you will never stop till the time you will reach that one birth where your infinity discovers its infinity within the Atman within. This is the life. सूरज को धरती तरसे, धरती को चंद्रमा, पानी में सीप जैसे प्यासी हर आत्मा. Okay, you are like the pearl which is there inside that this thing. You are that reservoir of ocean water, but you are stuck up inside that crystal and then that clinger, and you are ever thirsty for that water, whereas you yourself are that only. Okay, this is the beauty. We should discover the beauty. That is why it is said Jantunam Narajanma Durlabham. We should realize, brothers and sisters, realize this beauty, realize the wonder secret today. Our birth is most sacred. We are the pinnacle of the creation by God. We are truly you and you. Why you all say Guruji loves you all so much? He is so compassionate. It is not a big deal. It is not a very big human quality. It is very simple truth. Through the vision, the neutral vision, when you see everyone as that pure Atman, why that love will not come? Why that compassion will not come? Realize, show me your feet, 16, 20 feet, children feet, every feet, he's touching. And Sashtanga Namaskar he's doing. Please, he leaves the spirit of this word. He's doing Sashtanga Namaskar to you. Realize the worth of our human life. How sacred is our human life. We are the pinnacle of the creation. We are that changeless Atman, pure consciousness. एक मोड़ दो अपने जीवन का. Change the direction of your life and reduce. It is a slow process. Today it cannot happen. Reduce your hankering for your desire for fulfilling the quench the pyas of this infinite Atman through finite objects. Dhere, dhere, hole, hole. You turn, give it a turn and turn towards sadhana, turns towards God self, because you are born ultimately to attain self-realization. Is it necessary to waste so many pearls? जरूरत है क्या? Please. This dawning, this awakening should happen from within. Please, please. Yoga Vashishta. Valmiki is narrating to another Rishi. Epitome, embodiment of dispassion, how Sri Rama portrays as a youth, we will go through. And close our eyes and live in that era of Rama. Be present in that Ayodhya Nagari. Watch and take that nectarine Rama Tattva within us as he goes through this. Valmiki says, Rama has toured the country and he has returned. Upon, Valmiki is saying, upon entering the palace, Rama devotedly bowed to his father, the sage Vashishta, and other elders and holy men. For some time, Rama lived in the palace, duly performing his daily duties. However, very soon a profound change came over him. He grew thin, pale, and weak. The father was Dasharatha, was worried about it. Dasharatha inquired from Rama, beloved son, what is worrying you? Rama said, nothing, father. It goes on. And then Vishwamitra comes seeking the help of Rama and Lakshmana for ending the cruelty of Tataka. We know about that. Okay. Valmiki shares. Now, Dasharatha tells Vishwamitra about this plight, what is happening to Rama, some changes. And then Dasharatha calls Rama and asking in the presence of the Rishi, what makes you so sad, my son? Dejection is an open invitation to a host of memories. Rama takes over. Born in the house of Dasharatha, my father, I became well versed in all departments of knowledge. You have to live in that era of Rama, not Ramaraja, and you have to feel the vibration of these words uttered by Sri Rama. I became well versed in all departments of knowledge and conducted myself strictly according to the dictates of religion. Then I went around this earth by ocean and I covered everything. And I went in many sacred waters. With my return from the pilgrimage, all my desires for the delusion of the universe have ceased. Rama covers the following subjects in his detailed talk, which forms the essence of Vairagya. There are various prakarana in the Yoga Vashishta. Liberation comes in the middle. It starts from the middle and goes towards the end. This is the starting first or second prakarana, Vairagya prakarana in the Yoga Vashishta. Yoga Vashishta is higher, 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 higher. That highest level. The highest secret is revealed through various stories, like the story of Chudala and Shikidwaja. Yoga Vashishta, you have to be on the threshold of liberation to be even able to grasp the subtler revelations in this treatise. So Rama is taking up few things. If he has to really go through the Yoga Vashishta verses and explain these things, this one Vairagya Prakarana will take 2-3 sessions. He is not exaggerating. He went to Lagu Yoga Vashishta and then he go to a simpler version and he abbreviated and he cut short many things to give you the gist. Rama is telling and you are all listening. He is an instrument connecting you to Sri Rama. Rama is taking over. Talking about wealth. Like one's family with children, etc., that will not make him happy, who is beset with the highest of dangers, wealth which only makes hosts of thoughts to whirl in the brains of men will not confer bliss. Just as a king allies himself with any person who owns his supremacy, no matter whether that person be noble minded or lower base, so wealth which is attained by any person who flies it for a refuge tends, however serviceable it may be, to the condemnation of the spirituality, spiritually wise, and hence it is base. About life. Life is like a drop of rainwater dripping from the end of a leaf turned overhead, flits out of the body like an idiot at unreasonable times. It is only by being bitten by the serpent of the ever waxing desires of the five senses that persons without true jnana begin to droop in their minds and shorten their lives. In the case of persons without a discrimination, learning is a burden to them. In the case of persons without quietness of mind, their mind is a burden to them. All the faculties are burden to us if we do not have the Vairagya. But in the case of persons having passion and other stains, even Atmanyana is a burden to them. In the case of persons who have not enjoyed the bliss in their own self, the beautiful body, life, manas, buddhi, ahankara, all are intolerable burdens to them. About ahankara. I am much terrified by the enemy of this illusory and harmful ahankara, the asmita, I-ness, the I amness, which is generated through delusion and permeates me all throughout. It is only through ahankara that all the mental chaos, dangers, and the ever increasing actions of life arises. All our daily ceremonies, yajnas, and the enjoyables and others associated as they are, if they are pursued with ahankara, they are all merely unreal. Therefore, the real secret, not condemning the rituals, with what notion, with what motive you are undertaking them. Therefore, the real secret lies only in the renunciation of this ahankara. So long as ahankara beclouds us, so long will the flowers of desire bloom and increase in us. Manas. It is possible to drink up the contents of the ocean, eradicate the Mahameru mountain to its root, or swallow the flaming fire, but it is impossible to control this mind of ours. It is only cause of the generation of all objects. This perishable universe exists only when the mind exists, but disappears with the absence of the latter. Therefore, the mind should be annihilated. All the host of pains and pleasures, which are like mountain fastness, arise through the mind only. Hence, I conclude they will perish. Should the mind perish through stainless discrimination and vairagya and sadhana? Desires. Like a dancing woman who, through though enfeebled, through weakened by age, dances in vain without true joy from within. All my desires play in me in a similar manner, afflict me. A woman dancing and in joy, out of joy, with joy, versus a weak old aged woman dancing for the heck of dancing without any joy in dancing. He's telling my the play of my mind, my desires are akin to that dance of the old woman, where there is the desires are there, the desires are being pursued like the old lady dancing, but there is no joy in that. They will try to encompass things beyond their reach. But even if such things are within their grasp, they will pass over and again long for happiness. Like monkeys, they roam about without any fixed state. Infancy, whatever person, whatever you are born as in this ocean of samsara, mundane existence, rolling with many waves of diversified actions in a restless and fluctuating state, the period of infancy is ever the cause for intense pains which is in store. This period is ever attended by unavoidable dangers, weaknesses, inability to convey ideas, ignorance, desires, and instability of thought. Youth, having crossed this period of infancy with many changes, many dangers, one reaches the period of youth, liable to another dimension, another kind of pains, and then reels and droops under the heavy blows dealt by the devil called Manmatha, the god of love, the lower passion, who lives in the hollowness of his mind. Not exaggerating, you have to think, not developing on this lust. Yoga Vasishtha and the commentaries on Yoga Vasishtha by realized masters, this has been dealt in a very deplorable way. The lust has been condemned like anything, and they have not been diplomatic or even very polite in using the vocabulary. So it will not be good for you grahasthas if same thing is given to you. So he's avoiding all those severe words, but only this. If the lust, which is the source of all, he's putting it in the most decent diplomatic manner. The lust, which is the source of all enjoyment, ceases. then all the worldly bondage which has its substratum in the mind will cease. With the cessation of the concept of this lust, universe which exists only in name, there dawns the eternal heavenly bliss. This lust of man or woman, which being without being discrimination is enchanting at a distance, craves always, even if gratified, and flutters like the wings of a honey drinking bee, and is hard to be given up. Very bad. Old age, the never ending sage of infancy, then to youth, and then to this thing, the old age, miserable. If the infant stage and the youth stage, if it is not lived as per the dictates, instructions of the treatise, whether it comes to normal dharma as per the Manusmritis or as per the Vedanta for higher evolvement, if the he dealt with the two dimensions of the various grahasthashrama from brahmacharya to sannyasi and the dharma artha kama moksha at each matrix, where what is your dharma artha kama moksha? For a sannyasi only moksha. So if that is not, and every paradharma, if it is not subjected to and scanned through the security scan checking of the swadharma, and mercilessly any paradharma which goes against the swadharma is thrown out like that. If such a life is not lived in the youth, then old age is a misery. Because all the wrong things have been done, all the sins have been accumulated, your mind is tarnished, your mind is gone, it has lost all its strength, and little by little you are feeling having the sense of guilt. My life is wasted like this, and you are weak enough not to get up and undertake purushartha. Worse than even committing suicide, such an old age. That is why it is told, don't leave sadhana, don't leave goal for realization to your later stage, to be pursued when you are in your sick bed. Don't leave. Start early, drive slowly, reach safely, our Bhagavan has told. Kala, time. All the pleasurable objects of enjoyment in this world arising through ajnana, in the series of rebirths, take leave with the arrival of the Yama. He will cut short. Time is running up. Okay. Couple of things he will leave. And then ultimately, Valmiki says, who listen to the Rama's discourse? Sages like Vashishta and Vishwamitra, citizens, holy ones, servants, caged birds, animal pets, the horses of the royal stable, and the celestials, including the perfected sages and heavenly musicians. Surely even the king of heaven and the chiefs of the netherworld listen to Rama. The perfected sages in the assembly said, surely the answer that the holy ones are about to give in answer to the weighty and huge questions of Rama are worthy of being heard by all beings in the universe. Oh sages, come, come. Let us gather in the court of King Dasharatha to the answer to Rama's questions by the supreme sage Vashishta. That is what Yoga Vashishta is all about. Conversation between Vashishta and Rama. Valmiki says, hearing this, all the sages of the world hastened to the court where they were duly received and honored. They were all duly seated in the court. Surely, if in our heart and the lofty wisdom of Rama is not reflected, these questions of Rama, this dispassion, if it doesn't arise, then Vashishta's answer will not come. Vashishta's answer in our life as spiritual sadhaka, endowed with the sampatti of the sadhana chatushtaya, is the answer which we are going to get through all these spiritual treatises, mainly Upanishads, which we will go through the weekly satsangs. Swami willing, with the grace of Swami. We will end with a couple of verses from Ashtavakra Gita. This is from chapter 10 Ashtavakra Gita. It is very small chapter, 10 or 11 verses. 3 verses we will pick up from that. Ashtavakra, the preceptor teacher is telling to Janaka. Yatra yatra bhave trishna samsaram vidhi taravai praudavairagyam ashritya ved trishna sukhi bhava. Okay. We'll make it very short. Okay. Know that to be in the world, wherever there is desire, cultivating strong dispassion, go beyond the desire and be happy. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Rishi says, desire indeed is the supreme source of sorrow. Desirelessness, the source of extreme happiness. Just as in the case of Pingala, prostitute, when she destroyed her passion and anxiety for men, she slept peacefully. In Yoga Vashishta also, we find an elaborate metaphor which says, the individual ego riding in the chariot of the mind, pulled by the horses of sense organs, wanders all over the world, driven by its charioteer desire, raised beyond the desires through dispassion, vairagya. Trishna matratmako bandha tannasho moksha uchyate bhava asam shakti matrena prapti tushtir mohur mohu. Desire is the soul of bondage, and its destruction is said to be liberation. By non attachment to the world alone does one attain the constant bliss of the realization of the self. Okay. It is repeated, mohur mohu, constantly, again and again. Seven, 8 verses, severe condemnation of all these worldly activities and insisting on dispassion. Okay. And all about neti, and the preceptor is coming to iti. He is not leaving his student with all dispassion, all with negative this thing, to develop dispassion, vairagya, to run away. He's also introducing in the chapter on, not on liberation, in the chapter on dispassion itself, he's like आईना दिखाना बोलते हैं ना हिंदी में. So he is showing the true picture, true identity of the student. Even in the chapter on dispassion, he says, त्वम् एकचेतना शुद्धो जडं विश्वम् असत्तथा अविद्या अपि न किञ्चित् सा का बुभुत्स तथापि ते. Don't be afraid, even when I am teaching you on dispassion. Okay, Tvam Ekachetana Shuddho. You are the one pure intelligence. The universe is inert and unreal. Ignorance also is non existent. Avidya apina kinchitsa. Even ignorance is not there. So you rise beyond ignorance and wisdom. Don't be too much bothered about ignorance. Rise beyond all the dualities, because you are that Tvam Ekachetana Shuddho. What then can you desire to know? Okay. The essential, Chinmaya writes, the essential nature of being is the self. And the self is consciousness. Everything else is inert. Even ignorance, everything goes. Everything else is inert and functions only in the borrowed light, reflected consciousness of the self. Ashtavakra advises the student to give up the intellectual gluttony, his ever growing hunger to study, to discuss, to argue, and to investigate. Shanta, Shanta, Shantam, Dantam, Nidantam, Visena. So, get inward, get inward, get inward. In Shweta Ashvatara Upanishad also, it is clearly the teacher is being warned in that Upanishad, don't get into arguments. Sahana Vavatu. May we not argue with each other. Don't get into argument. You cannot convince a student of the secret of the Shrutis by arguing, by being very strict. Neither can a student be arguing about knowledge. Knowledge is not for arguing. Knowledge is not for discussing. Knowledge is not for pattimandram. Not knowledge is not for debate. Knowledge is to take it inward and contemplate, contemplate, contemplate. Nididhyasana, nididhyasana, nididhyasana. Till the time the knowledge transforms into experience, because what he told, any experience is not real. Any experience is not ultimate. Knowledge of all the 108 Upanishads also, till the time they stay outside you as knowledge, they are of no use, because anything outside, anything experienced outside is not you, the pure consciousness. It is all those knowledge do not conform to the definition of you, the pure consciousness, Tvam Eka Chetana Shuddho. The knowledge must sink in through the nididhyasana. They should get converted, transformed to real experience. The knower, the knowledge, the knowing process all come to, like the Triveni Sangamam, they come together, they merge in you, the pure consciousness. And so, recap, we went through intro, origin of Vairagya, then the Swarupa, Hetu Karya Avadhi, Tattva Bodha, then the various stages of Vairagya, then the Siddhartha story, then the glory of Vairagya, how to develop Vairagya, then about Yoga Vashishta, Rama's dispassion, and couple of verses from Ashtavakra Gita. Our sage from Ananda Kutir, Shivanandji Maharaj writes, Sangha Jnana Vairagya. Why do you fight in vain with your brothers? Fight with the mind and the indriyas. Why do you weep in vain for the death of relatives? Weep for the separation of the Lord. The love between the spouses, husband, wife, is selfish. Brothers, sisters are united for selfish ends. Death is ever waiting to devour you all. That tomorrow will never come. Open your eyes. Now arise, awake, stop not. The world is a mela for 2 days. This life is a play for 2 seconds. When one is in union with God, it is samadhi. The yogi gets infinite bliss and knowledge. Bhakti yoga is crossing the river by boat. Jnana yoga is crossing the river by swimming with strength, internal self inquiry. A jnani gets knowledge by self reliance. A bhakta gets darshan by self surrender. Then there is one vritti, it is savikalpa. When there is tripti laya, it is nirvikalpa. When one is, there are 7 jnana bhumikas. When one is in fourth bhumika, it is jivan mukti, turiya. When there is no body consciousness, it is videha mukti. When you are in a state of turiya, it is jivan mukti. When you transcend turiya, there is a turiya tita Upanishad for your information. When you are in turiya tita, it is videha mukti. When there is Swarupanas, it is Jivan Mukti. When there is Arupanas, transcend all the Swarupas, it is Videha Mukti. When Jagrat appears as Swapna, it is Jivan Mukti. When Jagrat waking state appears as Shushupti, deep sleep, it is Videha Mukti. So, my brothers and sisters, bestowed with Viveka, discriminating between Nitya, Anitya, Sat and Asat, Atmana, Atman, developing dispassion towards Asat, unreal, ephemeral, transient, bestowed with total non attachment, not detachment, non attachment. Don't enjoy the enjoyer who is enjoying the objects of this world. Focused on Sat, the sadhaka now, two chuda in the chudamani, in the crown jewel, 50% is already his adorning. Viveka, Vairagya is over now. After Vairagya, he is going ahead to develop certain virtuous qualities which will lead to mumukshatva, the eternal craving for liberation. Those virtuous qualities are the Shat Sampat, 6 virtues, which will be Swami willing. Swami willing. With the grace of Swami, we should mean. Never ever tell this expression without feeling it from within. With the grace of all Swami's grace, internally tears may not be outward. When you say Swami's grace, you should swim, bathe in Swami's grace. You should mean it from the spirit of your heart. With Swami's grace, with Swami's guidance, we will take the Shat Sampat next week. Hari Om. That's it. We were all in some other world, no? For 1.5 hours. Not in one, not in the creation. Now, the Vairagya, now. only the next two attainments possible. And without these four qualifications, no sadhana in wisdom at all.